Pokemon Horizons is in the midst of a truly historic arc that has dished out fierce battles, warmed our hearts, and upped the stakes. Hey everyone, it's Charles. How are you today? The Galar arc of Pokemon Horizons has been cooking up something special, touching on surprisingly dark themes and dropping big battles and big moments all over the place. Not only did we experience the stunning origin story of the Rising Volt Tacklers en route to Galar in episode 18, Flying Pikachu Soaring High, but once we touched down, we were told a tale of broken friendships and reconciliation in episode 19, Alcremie's Truth, then given hard-hitting real talk about failure, perseverance, and the pitfalls of kindness in episode 20, Kabu's Battle Training. And the stakes only ramped up when the Rising Volt Tacklers left Motostoke City for the Galar Mines in pursuit of Black Rayquaza. The plan today is to break down the heartfelt feels of episode 21 and the fiery insanity of episodes 22 and 23, because these episodes have set the stage for a stunning conclusion to the Galarian adventure that nobody should miss, so let's jump right in. Leading up to the crazy battles and lore drops of episodes 22 and 23, episode 21, The Lonely Hatenna, delivered the big Liko moment we all needed. Episode 21 and episode 20 are kind of like two sides of the same coin. And while we saw the negative aspect of Liko's compassion back when she threw the match against Wakaba at Kabu's gym, this time her empathy became a strength. The premise is that Liko, Roy, and Fried are bound for the Galar Mine in search of Rayquaza when they come across a sad, silent Hatenna in the forest, and Liko is just too concerned to leave it there. So she takes it back to the Bravasagi for treatment. As it turns out, there is nothing physically wrong with Hatenna, but as Molly says, perhaps her mind is troubled. If you're going through a rough spot, you can feel lifeless even if you are physically well. This leaves Liko confused about what to do, given that when she herself feels down, sometimes she likes to speak with her friends, whereas other times she just wants to be left alone. And Molly points out that that is exactly the problem. You might act with good intentions, but it can just cause more grief, she says. And not only are we touching on some serious subject material, but Molly's words take us right back to episode 20, in which Liko's good intentions ended up backfiring and leaving everyone worse off. In any event, you may know that Hatenna can sense other creatures' emotions, and that prolonged exposure to strong emotions can tire them out, so they will typically only warm up to people with a calm disposition. As such, Hatenna ends up running away from the RVT members aboard the Bravasagi because their intense feelings are just too hot to handle. However, similar to a Hatenna, Liko herself is finally tuned to the feelings of those around her, and we've seen her use her empathy to influence people and events in various ways since the beginning of the series. So it's no surprise that once again she does her best to figure out what a troubled soul is going through in order to nudge them in a better direction. And when she uses a story about her personal experience with loneliness and stress to softly reach out, Hatenna begins to relax, eventually leaping onto Liko's shoulder. Orla points out that although she thought Liko was too considerate for her own good when they first met, it was that very consideration for others that allowed her to connect with Hatenna. Molly adds that being able to show compassion is a wonderful thing, and when Liko tries to return Hatenna to the forest the following day, Hatenna ends up leaping back into her arms. It doesn't want to leave her side, so Fried gives Liko a Pokeball and she makes her very first catch, at last realizing that she wants to be a trainer who understands the feelings of Pokemon. As much as I like Go, I am happy that we've returned from the catch everything that moves era to the bond and befriend style of team building. Pokemon Horizons has just done a really great job of zeroing in on the relationships of people and Pokemon, not to mention that episode 21 touched on some pretty deep themes, from loneliness to depression to content creators being abused by the faceless masses of the internet. Pokemon Horizons has put so much emphasis on exploring the bitters and sweets of life. I love it, and if the Galar arc wasn't good enough already, things were about to get legendary in episode 22. Liko, Roy, and Fried finally arrive at the mines in episode 22, Clash, Galar Mine, and when Hatenna senses something menacing within, the group is convinced that Rayquaza is almost within their grasp. But back at the Bravasagi, Ludlow foreshadows that the Slurpuffs are about to hit the fan. Jumping to conclusions is dangerous. It blinds you to what you seek. To find something is to be found by something. And sure enough, the group searching for Rayquaza at the mines were about to be found by something they certainly did not expect. Down in the mines, Fried explains that Rayquaza had likely been drawing to its sparkling minerals, as Rayquaza are known to eat bits of space dust and meteorites. But before Fried can even finish his sentence, Liko and Roy end up getting separated from him, then stumble upon a few miners who have apparently had their energy sapped by a giant Pokemon lurking in the deep. Cap finally catches up with Liko and Roy just as they bump into Kanya and Zur of the Explorers, but the showdown is interrupted when the giant energy-sopping monster of the mines finally reveals itself. A furious Galarian Moltres tears into the shaft, causing Liko's pendant to shimmer with light because, as it turns out, this beast is one of the 6 heroes of legend, which means things are about to get real bad for everyone involved. Before they can even put up a fight, the group are overwhelmed by Moltres' energy-sapping curse, and only Captain Pikachu is powerful enough to make a move against the beast. This was a really cool scene. Firstly, because it again shows that Captain Pikachu is more than just Freed's Pokemon. He is his own man, independent, ready, and willing to put his own life on the line against an unbeatable foe to protect those who need protecting. Of course, he ends up getting ragdolled by the legendary bird, but he does put up a heck of a fight. The situation also emphasizes Liko and Roy's unique characteristics. When Roy breaks free from Moltres' energy-sapping curse in a show of raw willpower to fly into battle against it, only to get wiped out, which then in turn pushes Liko to break free in order to protect her friend. 2 displays of determination coming from 2 different characters in 2 different places. It was great. Of course, Liko and Roy have no choice but to flee from Moltres with almost Deadmau5 in a minecart, but they just can't shake off the pesky bird. And it's not until they scorch past Freed, who is locked in combat with Ametheo near the entrance to the mine, that Freed has Charizard smoke Moltres with flamethrower so that Liko and Roy can slip away to safety. The episode then ends on a cliffhanger, with Freed and Ametheo trapped within the Galar mine, facing down a very angry Galarian Moltres as the entrance collapses. I love how this episode portrayed Galarian Moltres as an insurmountable foe, easily eviscerating all challengers just like the Kanto Moltres that overwhelmed Ash and Gary back in Pokemon Journeys. It's how it should be. Anyways, Moltres' rage seems to stem from its frustration at being separated from the ancient adventurer Lucius. We can only wonder how they ended up parting ways, and episode 23 was about to dish up an extra serving of questions. On the whole, episode 23, Galarian Moltres Ignites, was another banger, but we do need to be honest about the opening, which was floppier than day old soba. Given that episode 22 concluded with Freed and Ametheo facing down Galarian Moltres as the entrance to the mines collapsed, everyone was curious as to how the two might set aside their differences to fight for their lives, what secrets might be revealed about Ametheo, and how Liko and Roy might return to bail out Freed. But instead, Freed just shows up at the Pokemon Center and tells everyone that he escaped. It triggered viewers' PJOSD, and it was just awkward, given the stakes set up by the cliffhanger. Oh well. In any event, when Liko recalls Kabu saying that winning battles isn't a trainer's only path, it sparks a realization that has the group heading back to the mines with a new strategy. Rather than fighting an impossible battle, the plan is to render Emo Big Bird harmless by using one of Sprigatito's unique abilities. According to the official Pokemon Scarlet and Violet website, when Sprigatito kneads and rubs with its forepaws, a sweet aroma is released that can mesmerize those around it. This aroma has therapeutic qualities and makes opponents lose their will to battle. The result of this strategy is a thrilling confrontation based on a neat piece of Pokemon lore, in which Sprigatito, Fuecoco, Wattrel, Charizard, and a revitalized Cap team up to stave off Galarian Moltres' assault, restrain it, and make it inhale as much of that soothing special leaf as possible. Of course, the chaotic back and forth doesn't exactly go according to plan, so in an act of desperation, Liko ends up throwing her own safety to the wind to run out and urge Galarian Moltres to open up to her. Emo Big Bird is a no-nonsense guy who responds by firing a Destructo Death Ray at Liko, but just as she throws her own body over Sprigatito to shield it from harm, the giant Arboliva who joined the party back in episode 11, Arboliva's Forest, bursts out of its ancient Pokeball to block the blow. This scene made for a powerful character moment that reminded me of Ash's declaration and sacrifice at the end of the very first episode of the anime. Not just because Liko declares her resolve to become the kind of person she wants to be, a trainer who doesn't only fight but who truly thinks and feels, but also because she doesn't think twice about sacrificing herself to protect her partner. Liko is a very different type of hero in terms of her personality and her goals, but a hero of the same quality cut all the same. Anyways, with a boost from Arboliva, the team are finally able to execute their strategy successfully, and as Liko reapproaches Moltres, Terapagos comes forth from the pendant to speak with Moltres itself. Moltres finally relaxes, and then, somehow, the ancient adventurer Lucius appears to Moltres in the mist before disappearing shortly after. With that, Moltres hops into its own ancient Pokeball. Another of the 6 heroes has joined the adventure, more mysteries have been opened up, and Liko emerges with real clarity around the kind of trainer she wants to be. Next, we head onward to reunite with Liko's grandmother, where we will finally get new information about the nature of Liko's pendant, aka Terapagos, a climactic clash between the rising Volt Tacklers and the Explorers, and who knows what else. Beyond the action and the wholesome feels, the Galar arc has been laser focused on establishing Liko as a unique protagonist who can carry the anime forward. And while Liko isn't as forceful or as driven to become powerful as Ash or Roy, she is determined to develop herself in her own way. She is the kind of hero who can win the hearts of the people and the Pokemon around her, and it's going to be a blast seeing where she ends up. The anime is going on break till October 6th, so we have a ways to wait. But in the meantime, Kanto Moltres or Galar Moltres? I'm curious what you think.